Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us today for Make It Personal, Transforming Facilities Leadership, presented by Maria Gonzalez Burgos and brought to you by IFMA's Corporate Facilities Council. Please be aware that this webinar is being recorded and you are muted to prevent background noise during the presentation. If you have any questions during the webinar, please type them in the questions box. And if time permits, Maria will answer your questions at the end of the presentation. We will also be sharing some housekeeping items at the end of the webinar, so please make sure you stay on to see the credits roll. I now turn you over to the CFC's Programs Committee Chair and Secretary, Dexter Barra.
Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining our CFC monthly Wednesday webinar series. What a great way to get the month started. We'd like to take a moment to recognize the CFC Council for winning the Council of the Year. And also a big shout out to Jose Diaz for receiving the Emerging Professional of the Year award, which is much deserved. We'd also like to take a moment to thank our sponsors, SenseFix, eStructurer, First On Site, Empire Office, and Tersano, who help to bring this amazing content to you every month. We'd like to give a big shout out to CFC leaders, Linda Besetsky and Wayne Whitesell, for being champions of the CFC. And now, without further ado, I'd like to introduce Maria Gonzalez Burgos, who is an executive leader in facilities management, integrated facilities management, and corporate real estate, with more than 20 years of experience leading complex operations and global portfolios. An architect by training and a qualified professional of corporate real estate, she specializes in operational transformation, workplace strategy, and building high-performing teams across multicultural environments. She is the founder of FOM Solutions Consulting, a consulting practice focused on integrated facilities management and operations strategy, helping organizations align teams, strengthen service delivery, and optimize the performance of their built environments. Maria also serves as COO of the Fractional Executive Network, where she helps design scalable operating models to support organizations during periods of growth and transformation. Maria is an active contributor to the profession and currently serves on the board of directors of the IFMA Orlando chapter, supporting industry engagement, mentorship, and the development of future facilities leaders. I want to share a few fun facts about Maria. One of those things is that she loves to travel and photograph doors, to the point where she probably has as many pictures of doors as she does of her daughter. She's also a very big karaoke fan, so if we see her in Anaheim, please ask her to help you rock the microphone. All right, without further ado, Maria, take it away.
Thank you very much, Dexter. And I bring this karaoke thing because I was in another presentation a long time ago, and whoever presented said that he believed karaoke should be banned, and I was really concerned about it. But thank you and good morning, everyone. Thank you for being here, and thank you to IFMA CFC for the invitation to participate with all fellow members. I'm really happy to be here today. In facility management and operations, we often focus on building systems, tools, and performance. But behind all of that, there's something more powerful. And we all know that's start with the P as people. Today, I want to share how shifting to a more people-centered approach can actually transform not just culture, but operational performance as well. How many of you manage challenges daily? I'm pretty sure all of you. And I want to invite you please to participate in the following poll using the QR code that is in the screen, or going into menti.com with the code that you can see here. And I will switch to Menti right now to see your responses. But I will let probably 1 or 2 minutes for you to go there and help me with your participation. In reality, we all working in operations understand that the field is never static. Some days our response is more reactive due to uncertain events. There are times where we have really time to plan and strategize our goals, and we have time to think outside the box and modify the currents. Every leadership style is different. And it's okay when we turn to the most important piece, that is people, because the core of the business is in there. But let me just go quickly to sharing my other screen in Menti, and you all can see the responses in the room. That one takes so long, so bear with me. Okay. Waiting for your responses. Let's see. Okay, one people center, one strategic and proactive. It's probably coming. But I want you to feel that this is an ongoing question that probably you should have in your own environment, in your own operation. Not necessarily needs to be one right now. Maybe you have all of this describing your correct leadership approach. But it's a good way for all of us to sense where we are in this process of transformational leadership. When I return to the presentation again, so we can all continue. Okay. Here we are. So I would love to start with this. What do you see here in this AI picture? We all use AI every day in our daily basis for everything. Well, I can see my favorite items. I can see a coffee in a little table at the bottom. I can see people. I can see a dashboard, really important in facilities and in operations. All this is great, but they need to interact each other. And usually we notice technology, data, collaboration, all important elements are disconnected. But what's interesting is that even in a very advanced environment, people can become secondary. And that's not good for any kind of industry. And in any operation environment, that's often where we miss the biggest opportunity. Now, let me ask, are these individuals in this picture, do you think are collaborating? Probably yes. This is how FM is often seen, as a space where people collaborate. But today we shift that lens a little bit further, and I would like to join me in this process of thinking. Well, my perspective, it didn't come from theory. It came from my own experience. Facility management puts us in situations where we have to adapt very quickly, solve problems, and lead through uncertainty. And those moments really shape how we all see what is leadership. If you are the leader, your supervisor, or maybe the leaders at your company, this is what we all have in the same condition in our environments. The landscape of facility management and operations is constantly evolving. Operations leader must continually adapt to new roles, to new technologies, especially now with the integration of AI in every capability that we have in facility management, and organizational cultures that most of the time are impacting big organizations. And this adaptability is not only a technical skill, but it's a profound opportunity that we all have for personal discovery and career reinvention. You likely had similar moments in your career, examining your own journey, for example, managing a single building to overseeing a portfolio, a big portfolio, for example, of coming from a different career background and then being an account lead. This is something that is very common in operation, particularly in facility management, where we know that the career as a facility manager is really new. And this intergenerational approach of working in FM probably is very different now from what used to be back in the days in our times. And reveals these interactions with this discovery of our own path, reveals that the strengths power our growth, our own commitment for going into challenges and non-comfort. In facilities, you don't have a comfort zone any day, because even if we're going into processes and very specific processes in place, we always have situations that we cannot control. So what is your ability to delegate, to communicate effectively, or to apply deep technical knowledge? Naming these strengths that could potentially build a foundation of the future confidence that you will have in this path. This self-reflection is not passive at all. It's a strategic tool that we should use as an operators, understanding how you succeeded before equips you to face tomorrow's challenges within greater clarity and purpose on what are you doing in this field, and or guide you to decide maybe to move on to the next professional goal, the next career, the next level of your career path. So I often ask these questions to myself. When was the last time you did something for the first time? And I will ask you to ask the same question. And if you want, please reflect a little bit in a few moments and share it in the Q&A. And later, Kylie, if you see some comments in the chat, please be free to go jump and read with all of us those comments. I would really love to see when was the last time you did something for the first time again. Because growth and innovation and transformation don't happen in routine. They happen when we step into something new, something that is probably uncomfortable, not expected, and leadership is not different. Transformation starts with discomfort most of the time. So is there anything that you would like to share? I would love to listen. A year ago, I these specific questions to our fellows from IFMA LATAM in a presentation, and I remember I shared with them at that time that Jen Powell was the first women umpire in the Major League Baseball. And for me, that was like a shocking moment to understand that was the first time for a woman to umpire a game. And just yesterday morning, I read in the news that Women Pro Baseball League started the spring training. So it's all related. So there's always someone doing something for the first time. And in our operations in the FM world, through real world examples of team building, of emergency response, and change management, we experience unknown that drives that lead us to professional growth as individuals, but also as leaders in the process. Is anything else there, Kylie, that you would like to share?
Nothing in the chat, but if y'all are typing, I'd love to share mine while everybody is typing. Not work related, more personal. The last time I did something for the first time was just a couple weeks ago. I've never gone to my like public gym and actually weightlifted in front of people. I stick to the treadmill, I stick to the walking path. I'm so self-conscious to actually do other workouts in front of people. But for the very first time in my life, I did the other day, and it was scary. But it also, everything worked out in the end, and it felt good by the end. And I think it gave me more confidence that just because I'm scared to do something doesn't mean I can't do it. It just means I have to do that thing scared. So that's mine.
Thank you for sharing. And that's the discomfort that we want to avoid most of the time because, we don't know. It's the unknown. Yeah. Thank you for sharing. Okay.
Maria, we actually have somebody raising their hand. We have Jean raising their hand. So I'm going to send them an unmute request if you don't mind, and they can share theirs.
For sure.
Jean, I have sent you your unmute request. So go ahead and unmute and share.
I think it's on mute, right?
We can't hear you, Jean. Do you want to try one more time? We can't hear them, so we can just move on, Maria. And John, if you want to type yours in the chat, we can circle back to it later.
For sure. And this is a very friendly space and safety space. So I know it's recording, but it's safe. Well, in my case, there were several firsts that really shaped me moving into a completely new environment. And I want to share just quickly my own journey so you can see where can I have it back into Maria's world. So I made this bold decision 14 years ago to start from scratch in this country in the US. I am a Mexican. I was born, raised all my professional life, my license as an architect, everything in my life was there. And then I was leaving behind this stability, family, career path, and this transformative journey reshaped my identity and my leadership approach. Before that, I never identify myself as putting more adjectives to my name in my resume, for example, right? So I was only a women architect, maybe. But then I start adding more identifications to my person every time I submitted a job application. I'm a Hispanic women architect by trade with a background in facility management and real estate. So where do I come from? Who am I? And what papers I bring with me? Then I have my first job, understanding that we all have learning curves to pass and these aha moments that probably don't expect during the process of a new role and learning new ways of working with people, new language. In this case, for me specifically, I never speak English in the past, so I learn, and I create this sense of belonging to work in a company culture. I have different bosses and different supervisors that today I can call my friends. And in reflection, that provides the material to create my own playbook. And of course, this embedded within my first team, where I was in front of my first team. They call me Kiddo, and I was in front of 14 engineers, all men, most of them in their 50s, 60s, very multicultural and diverse team. I cannot say all white, all men in their 60s. There was a very diverse team and intergenerational individuals. But it was who really transformed my connection of people as a team to build this transformation of this is really working with me as a leader. And then, of course, I managed my first major crisis with this specific team, with floating in the building. I manage headquarters of a company. We have water all over the place, and could have been really chaos, but it became a moment of collaboration. Of course, we have lesson learned. We have a business case to really help us to not repeat the same scenario in the future, and all the KPIs in the middle. In facilities, we all live with all these three things: lesson learned, business cases, and KPIs. And that helps me a lot to find that there's something in between that helps you. And trust, empathy, and communication are what truly drive the outcomes during my first approaches of everything. And I'm jumping to this beautiful picture. You all know this is the Titanic. Is in the middle of this crisis. It's a movie of 3 hours of a failed business continuity plan. I love to watch this movie with my daughter, but I always would like to really go into details of where was the big failure. It was not the iceberg, for sure. So who are you in this Titanic in your FM operation? I am definitely not Rose or Jack, and probably you are not the captain or the architect that designed. We all have a role, and this is what we call navigating uncertainty. In FM, in operations, uncertainty is not the exception, it's the constant, and it's not occasional. Whatever is an operational disruption, client new expectations, or evolving workplaces, we are always navigating change. So the question becomes more, what differentiates the leaders who thrive in that environment? Position leadership as a differentiator in this particular page is what we call operational capability. We're not talking about soft skills anymore, because it comes down to only a few key capabilities that can help us to really recognize how to act during uncertain times. Emotional intelligence, communication, composure, and the ability to lead with clarity even when things are uncertain. And there are what enable teams to stay aligned and perform under pressure. Transformational leadership goes beyond compliance and crisis management. Unfortunately, in our field, we always want to go to the SOPs to find the response to everything, but we really need to inspire teams to find creative solutions and foster innovation and remain engaged even under pressure through these leadership outlines. When something new emerges and a transformational leader doesn't just reinforce this, that also move the team to exceed expectations. That instantly connect to outcomes, to the stability, to trust, and to have the performance that we expect. So improving your interactions with others by tuning into their thoughts, their feelings, and their needs is what we call not just the facts, it's just moving into something else. Watching these non-verbal cues to communicate emotions between teams most of the time help us to drive uncertain times and go further that. So what makes some leaders more effective than others? This is a good question maybe for all of us to ask continuously. What it makes some leader more effective than other leaders? And there are a lot of data around emotional intelligence, but in FM and operations management is very practical. It shows up how we communicate, how we build trust with our teams, with our clients, with our stakeholders, and how we manage those challenges. We know that technical expertise is critical, but it's the human connection that really turns service into partnership. And this emotional intelligence, as a definition, is the ability to monitor our own but others' feelings and emotions, and to discriminate among them and use this to guide our thinking and actions. I really like this definition because it's using a word that I really don't like, that is discrimination. But in emotional intelligence, we really need to discriminate among feelings and use that in our favor. So why employees do you think and team members prefer leaders with high emotional intelligence? It's basically because it's approved that organizations can increase 20% of profit when they have leaders that are putting in place emotional intelligence in the workplace. And when we're going to recruitment processes, I know that in the recruitment, we're always going to the soft skills, but for FM particularly, we look a lot on technical skills. And yes, when you have the technical skills, you get into the room and you get the access, but it's not only that. If you have emotional intelligence during the process, you build trust and you stay there to provide outcomes. And in between these circles, you can see adaptability, interpersonal, intrapersonal, and resilience. All of those are skills that we can develop during the process. The ability to be flexible in changing conditions, that's adaptation. Managing stress productively and solving problems effectively is very different than when you are not really flexible. And this ability to recognize other emotions, nurture positive relationships to minimize conflict, that really puts you in a position to be a transformational leader. And after everything, the ability to bounce back from setbacks and then to have or regain self-confidence and maintain positive perspective, even facing negative events, is what collect all the adjectives to be an emotional, intelligent leader. And it's not something that we cannot get from one day to another. It's something that is in a transformative journey most of the time. So think about this as a real scenario, like a power outage. I just mentioned about the flooding in a building, but the power outage is something very critical, something that can stop business continuity. And in a strong FM team doesn't just react, they communicate clearly, they follow a plan, they create a confidence in the moment. All that together turns into a strategic development. And that resilience in action is what is building through leadership. Managing facilities across multiple locations requires multiple collaboration. But even if we're not talking about multiple portfolios, we're talking about one team in one building. You even require collaborate with other departments. We really need to have efficient supplier management, and through crisis preparedness, Strategic leadership is what connects the tissue that holds complex portfolios together, keeping a team engaged or an operation that is efficient. At the end, the goal is to meet expectations. So build this inclusive communication framework that spans language, culture, geography, regions. To align a distributed team is not easy, but it's possible when you develop this strategic development and focus on a strong supplier relationship. When we say a strong supplier relationship, it could be vendor, but it could be your client, it could be your stakeholder leader, it could be the HR department that is talking about move of people. In a specific project, facility management always have other collaborations or cross collaboration agents in the process. So building this trust, mutual value, and clearly defined expectations is not about just the price or the profit or the revenue. It's about people behind that is really aligned to this strategic process. Establish the clear protocols that you need, conduct regular drills, audits, everything that your team members needs to know and understand if they are in the right time, at the right place, in the right moment. It's not easy to find this balance, but everything relies on confidence and trust to get an outcome at the end as an equal. So I want to translate these ideas, all the slides I just showed before, into this something practical, and that's where the Make It framework comes in. It's a simple way to think about how we lead, how we engage, and how we develop our teams. Moving from day-to-day operations into long-term impact. The Make It methodology are simple, practical, and scalable steps that drives people-centered leadership. It's not a magic ball, it's not a recipe. It's something that we can all implement in our teams and operations. This approach recognizes that the employees of a team are the most valuable asset in their organization, and the well-being of the person and the development of this person is critical for this long-term success. A people-centered methodology that transforms facilities teams into thriving communities with purpose, with innovation, and through operational excellence. That's what we all want. We want to exceed expectations. We want to save money. But you really need to rethink again to make it this personal with the people that is the core of your business. The phase one starts with making this meaningful, understanding your people, listening actively, and recognizing their contributions. And when we're talking about people, it's not only your team members, it's the team, is the client, is the boss, is the stakeholder, is the company organization. Is knowing that everything that you're doing drives and creates alignment. The foundation of transformation begins when you recognize the people behind every process, every system, and every result. This phase cultivates the purpose and honor also who is behind. Most of the time, when I was in other teams, working with other teams, I realized that I had people in my team that they used to do other kind of things in the past, that they have other strengths and other capabilities to use during uncertain times or during uncertain events. That doesn't mean that we really need to ask them for the resume. It's more like one-on-one conversations, taking this step of knowing what is the pain of the people that is doing something today. They probably have more questions than you in the way of working, but collectively you can provide answers to specific questions, or understand that everyone is different in the workplace, and the only way that you can drive collaboration is knowing who is in the behind. And from there we move into inspiration and enjoyment. Inspiring means connecting people to a shared purpose, and enjoyment is about creating an environment. This is like a hive where you can keep the people feeling safe in one space, feel value, and also connected, not only productive. Uh, I used to have these one-on-ones with my team members, and left a little bit time at the beginning or at the end just to ask something that is not related to the work, to understand that maybe something else there that can create value, and transform understanding into inspiration but connected emotionally. This is the only way that we can really see the value on our companies, when we feel inspired by what we're doing. And this is when we elevate the narrative from operational maintenance job, daily routine, day-to-day operations, into creating an experience for the people that is working, and they are taking that with them proudly. Create environments where people feel safe, value, and connected. When teams feel good, they work better, and then they can defend what they're building together. And when we have uncertain times, collaboration clearly can have a glue during that process. This culture is built purely in daily interactions, stopping together in printing area, in the coffee breaks, and creating happy hours, one-on-ones, calls, team building, special meetings. Everything that creates an environment that is safe can definitely inspire and showcase results in near future. And then going into efficiency and innovation. That these two words are often seen as technical outcomes, but they're actually driven by people. You cannot bring technology or efficient way to work if you don't have the people behind really owning the process. When teams are engaged, they find better ways to work. They solve problems faster. They bring new ideas forward. And build this sustainable excellence through continuous learning is important. In facility management, we really need to be on top of trends, on top of what is the market trend, how we can really develop our business better if we don't know what is outside, what our competitors are doing. And this is where IFMA brings this leverage for members. You can go quickly and take a learning, but what if your team really needs that training with you? What are the launch and learns that you can provide and integrate into strategy to transform every challenge into a growth opportunity and share that success? So you can multiply this impact with other teams. Or maybe if you're joining a new job, you're taking this with you as your playbook. And stepping out of the comfort zones and question the status quo is not easy, especially when we are in corporations or in companies that have already a framework to work. But the more I work with operations, the more I learn that they have solutions already in place that we are not implementing because the company is not following what the operator is doing. So those are challenges that maybe we need to reinvent to create new opportunities and turning step backs into stepping stones, and reframe efficiency not to speed. We're not talking about be faster in what we're doing. We're talking about be more effective, and bringing innovation not as an optional thing. Is something that should be part of our day-to-day. What else we can do to be more effective? What else we can do to innovate in what we're doing? Everything that connects engaged teams to drive everything. And the last part of the process is make this something with legacy, going beyond the day-to-day, building this legacy through mentorship, through sponsorship, to development, to community back, is being replaceable. And I really like to strengthen again the word replaceable. In our field, we all need to be replaceable because we have new generations coming into the facility management world, and we have so much to do in facilities and in operations. It's about asking what impact I am leaving through the people I'm leading. This transcendence in FM is measured in transformation of people, in sharing knowledge, in open the path for others. We are not just the executors on facilities. We are builders on the future. In transformation, when we talk about transformational leadership, leadership isn't just on a strategy. It's cultivating human experience, shaping legacy, and creating opportunities for people to thrive, to be better. When we lift each other, we strengthen our organization and collective impact. And that's why I put this phrase, this African Ubuntu philosophy, that a person is a person through other people. As today, I don't know any leader that just went into successful path by him or herself. There's always someone behind that was able to bring the papers with them in front of a group, even if the person is not invited into the table. So the leader that we want today, the leader that I want above me, is the leader that is bringing my papers with him, with her, in front of others. That is making the team a transcendental team, the leader a transformational leader, and the employer someone that can have the confidence to move on and be there and in the future. And at the core of everything in our field, integrity and trust is the most important thing. I invite you to go into your KPIs with your service level agreements or your scope of work. Always, integrity is probably the number one KPI in our contracts. Because if we're saying that we complete 98% of predictive maintenance, it's because we have a dashboard that is proving that is true. And this is the only way that we can really rely on trust with our clients and with our vendors or our team members. In FM, decisions often happen under pressure, and how we show up in those moments defines our leadership. Integrity is not optional, it's what sustains the performance over time. And FM leaders shape organizational culture through every decision they are making, from budget allocation, from vendor selection, to environmental new practices or sustainability goals. Everything is related to integrity and trust. And when teams understand the reasoning behind decisions, are confident and aligned to the goals. And this is often happening with big corporations or big companies, that they have new structural challenges in their heads, and they have changes around organizational leaders. And when we go back to operations, they don't even know what is happening at the top, at the head, the big bosses. And the reasoning behind decisions can deeply affect the operations in one side. So if we can really relay the integrity and trust across all levels of organization, we can really prove what we can, this value added in front of others or in front of our clients. And when we talk about selecting suppliers based on labor practices or environmental responsibility goals, not only price, that could demonstrate really the value in action for a facility manager, for operation leader. Be responsible of the resource management signals respect to the organization, to the mission, and builds this credibility that we want in our leaders and to showcase to our stakeholders and to our clients. So acting responsible toward our environment is a professional obligation, and a reflection of any FM leader is a commitment to a long-term impact. We don't tend to pause and really reflect on the job on an operational leader or a facility manager, but what we're doing every day, in that doesn't matter the industry, is really having an impact of what we're doing for years and years to overcome an operations. And I just finished an article talking about how this situation in the other part of the world is really impacting facilities, and it is. We all know that we depend on oil for run our generators, or the supply chain is really impacting our operations. Well, the integrity and trust that we can value, that we can add as a value added, is bringing what is important for us as practitioners in FM. So this position is non-negotiable, I guess, is what I want to share with you. This decision making under pressure, we really rely on trust and integrity. So as you think about your own leadership, please help me to take a moment really to reflect. What are your strengths today? How are you investing in your people, in your team members? And where is your opportunity to lead in a different way? The journey through FM leadership, from personal discovery to ethical stewardship of integrity, is all the presentation from page 1 to end, is a continued path that you really need to repeat again. It's a cycle. Each challenge you navigate, each team your strength, and each decision you make with integrity compounds into a legacy of professional excellence. And the most resilient FM leader are those who never stop learning, reflecting, or growing. I hope this helps you to start thinking different about transformational leadership, and use your own career transition as a mirror, identifying what has worked, name your own skills, and leverage your unique journey as a source of resilience. That's the only way that we can really move on without fear. Build these cross-cultural communication skills. If we're talking about you're managing a region, or you're managing different locations in one site, or you have different clients to manage. Establish crisis protocols that you can really have drills behind to know what to do in case of, and foster a culture of collaboration. And the most important thing, a psychological safety place for your team that will create for you a new ways of working. When you embrace transformational leadership to inspire others or to inspire your team members during difficult times or during uncertainty, you can really be changer in the process. You can be the impact on the process. And it could lead you to change the perspective of what you're doing. Let every vendor selection, every budget decision, and every sustainability choice reflect the value that you want for your team and your organization, and they will create a new path for you. So we're talking about just the small steps in this intentional leadership purpose. I am just hope you can have self-awareness of yourself on your process, move to a leadership mindset, and put in practice an application what you just learned, And little by little, you will see that your team is also is more productive, is more efficient, is innovating, is bringing technology, is putting in place metrics, and is getting into the expectations that you promised in front of your clients and your leaders. And I think I cover most of my presentation today. I want to thank you again for your time and for the CFC for this invitation. If there is one idea I leave you with, is that buildings don't transform. It's the people who is behind, who is able to transform buildings. So when we make this personal, everything else follow. And I would love to hear your thoughts, and I open if you have any questions. I don't know, Kaylee or Dexter, if you have questions there, happy to listen.
Well, I definitely have a few questions and a few questions seem to be rolling in already. One of those questions, Maria, that we have for you today are, what are some strategies that you have found effective when facing resistance from teams or stakeholders who are used to a more traditional task folks FM model?
Well, resistance is natural. We cannot say that we love to have new ways in the process and say yes, I'm eager to change. No, resistance is natural, and especially in environments where success has historically been identified by task or by SLAs or by cost control, for example. What I found effective is starting with alignment, but not to persuasion to the people. It's connecting more to the people and what matters to them in terms of performance, reliability, and risk mitigation. If you include that as risk mitigation in the process, they probably feel more confident in changing. It's like, I don't know, sometimes it's not easy to say from starting tomorrow, we're just doing things different. You really need to believe in what you're doing and own that change.
Can you share some ways in past situations where you were able to make those changes and how you were able to bring folks along with those changes?
Yeah, I remember a time when I was leading a region, and in the past used to work very independent, not having cohesion or connection with other groups, with other teams, or with other sites. And it was really powerful to see that you can integrate collaboration when people share their own experiences. If you allow people to share their own lesson learns, they feel more comfortable later to ask for advice. Or if they have very good ideas or very good business cases in front of you, they can really rely on others to share those as a win. I was able to connect with my team in that way because we, first of all, I like to see people in person. I like to ask them, ask about their families, their personal goals, their personal inspirations, and then when I feel the connection, it's more easy for me to drive the conversation that probably are not the good ones, the difficult ones, when you really need to go into this is not working, we really need to fix this. But how you can fix something if the people in front of you is not trusting? So you really
Building
need to
that relationship.
building the relationship will help you really to go into processes that are tough.
Wonderful, wonderful. We have a few more questions. Another one we have here is, how do you measure the impact of people-centered leadership in facilities management, especially when leadership is expected to justify the results financially?
Yeah, we really need to go to the KPIs. It's not possible to go into people-centered approach without you putting aside the measurements around how is the operational performance today. You can read in front of a dashboard, this is not working, comparing to what is expected. And then how this is really affecting and where is the root of this failure. And when you go back to this people-centered approach is when you sit down and say, hey, I want you to explain to me, what do you think about this number? Why do you think it's not working today correctly? Maybe you don't have the correct picture about what should be the achievement, or maybe I am not doing the job of telling you what to do better, or bringing to you the tools to do better, to perform better. Connecting those dots, especially the financials, helps to become clear the expectation. When you showcase that if you are not performing well, we're losing that opportunity for you to keep working here because it's costing this. What we need to do to go into your process again and make changes. But it's not about only the metric, it's about reframing these existing KPIs to people's lens again.
Thank you, Maria. I don't think we have time for any more questions. I want to leave room for all the wonderful information that Kylie has to share with the CFC. Maria, I would like to thank you for joining the CFC this month. The content that you shared today was definitely transformational. Sorry to use that word, but it was. It was transformational, and it was really important. You know, one of the things the CFC has been trying to do with this series is focus on the FM and building the FM and the skills for the FM, right? So we can transform as leaders. And I think that you gave us a pathway to that. So thank you so much for your content today. This was wonderful.
Thank
Kylie,
you.
I'll give it.
Yes. So really quickly, everybody, thank you for staying on. Before we close, I have a few items, and the first is just a quick survey of how today went for you. So I have 3 quick questions. I'll give you a few moments for each. My first is, on a scale of 1 to 5, how well did the technology run during today's webinar? And please give us your honest opinions. So 1 being the worst, 5 being the best. How did today's technology run? I'll give you a couple moments. As y'all are answering that, I want to thank Dexter for being my partner and my co-host on these webinars. These could not be possible without the work that Dexter does behind the scenes to make it happen. So big thank you to Dexter for all that you do for the CFC and for these webinars. I'll give y'all one more moment on this one. Okay, I'm going to close this poll. Thank you so much for your thoughts. And I have my second question. On a scale of 1 to 5, how much did you enjoy the content of today's webinar? And as y'all are answering that one, I want to thank Maria for bringing this content to us today. You did a fabulous job. I really enjoyed learning with you, and I think everybody else did too. Thank you for making it interactive. Thank you for making it entertaining. I loved your note about the Titanic. So thank you, Maria, for your time and effort today for bringing this webinar to us. I'll give y'all a few more moments on this one. Okay, and I have one more survey question for all of you. On a scale of 1 to 5, how likely are you to recommend this content to another FM? And I want to take a moment as y'all are answering this to thank all of you for coming today. Whether you are a CFC member, an IFMA member, neither, both, these webinars are open to all. So we do these monthly, the first Wednesday of every month. So when you register, feel free to send this to your network, send this to people you know if you think that they would enjoy this content as well. And if you are not a CFC member, be on the lookout for an email from me with information about signing up to join the CFC. I'll send that email probably at the end of this week. So thank you for taking our survey, for everybody who took it. And I have one more item I'd like to share, and that I just dropped in the chat. Here at the CFC, we have a quarterly magazine called FM Professional. And this quarter, our magazine edition is all about workplace experience worldwide. I've dropped the link in the chat, so please feel free to give that a look, give it a read, share your favorite article on LinkedIn, and don't forget to tag the CFC when you do that. And that's all I have for you. There's no Spanish Latiem webinar this month, so this is what you get. I really hope you enjoyed today. If you are going to be at Facility Fusion next week, I hope you have a great conference. Thank you one more time, everybody, for making this happen today, and we'll see you next month. Bye, everybody.
Thank you, Maria.
Thank you.
Take care, everyone.
Thank you.